Where. So, hey everybody, it's Linda Lippin from
Okay.
Linda Lippin Pilates, the Pilates Teacher Mastermind, and the Strong Bones Osteoporosis Program. And I would just like to say Happy New Year to everybody. This is my first live in January, and I took off the last 10 days of the year. So that's all just kind of a big blur now as we really move forward. Um, I am always interested in providing the Pilates professionals and actually other service professionals in my network with high quality content that will help us move forward in our thought leadership, move forward in our businesses, move forward in our networking and connections with other people. And I am so happy to be starting the new year with Parchelle Tashi. Now, Parchelle is a former high school math teacher. Scary.
Woo.
I don't even see. Where are you? Yeah, I like the way you just moved the camera off when I said high school math teacher. Um, we're both kind of recovering and reformed academics. I came from the undergraduate phase, which is not too far off from the high school math phase. So, and I was attempting to teach them logic and, and critical reasoning, which in many ways for many people is a lot like math in so many ways.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't realize until much later how much like math so much of what I excelled at was because I always hated math and then
Mm.
was like, oh, but I actually do a lot of math. Who knew? Um, Now, Parchelle has a master's in curriculum and instruction, and she had left left that situation and became a creative entrepreneur and award-winning video producer. She has over 10 years of production experience with well-known brands and teams. She's been sought out nationally for her expertise in video production, online education, and business growth. Parchelle currently resides in San Diego on the other coast, serving as CEO at 36,000 Degrees, an education creation agency. Now, this is where things get interesting because what you do is you specialize in helping authors who already have books turn those books into profitable online courses, right? And you're the creator of course, the Book to Course Accelerator and the host of a new podcast. Congratulations, The Author's Leverage. And that's, as you see, the title of our chat today is Why You Need a Book and the Best Way to Leverage That Book. So, Parcel, a lot of the Pilates teachers in my network actually don't yet have a book. Now, several do. Several are best-selling authors. Some have books that are actually old enough that they just got control over their e-publishing and, other things because those things weren't even in the contract. Back at the beginning of this. So, talk to us about why a book is important.
Oops, let me make sure. Yeah, thank you for having me to be part of the conversation. Having a book, and a book is so important today, really because it's sort of become the business owner's business card. If you've ever been networking or out and about and you have your business card that you can hand over to someone, it's a representation, so to speak, of what you're about and how you can help and serve other people. And a book really is no different. And honestly, a lot of us now, we are in an age where we want to be informed before we make certain decisions. And so having a book in place is really instrumental for that reason. Gives your readers, your audience, a way to engage you, to learn from you in a manner that's going to get them excited about what's to come, excited about what you actually have to offer. And also there's so many other benefits to it as well, including the fact that you're able to build credibility, right? If there's a particular topic of interest that you want to be known for, then you being the one to have written the book on it and the way in which you do it, because you can only in your experience, in your words, then that really builds a lot of credibility and authority around that topic. And so having a book, I highly recommend it, and have found it to be a powerful way to gain credibility, authority, to leverage, to use in a number of ways, whether to get on the stage, to speak, to increase your speaking fees, to open up opportunities. Even almost like a free pass to the media is available to you oftentimes if you have a book. So those are some of the big reasons that I usually share as to why it's amazing to have a book and why you should
I
have
think,
one.
I think some people are still, it's become interesting in the online space, right? Because now it's actually pretty easy to self-publish a book. It is. And there's plenty of also of book coaches and people who, are eminently qualified to help us kind of birth a book and deal with publishing and all of that. Um, but like my husband wrote some zombie novels a few years ago, and we self-published those on KDP. Yep, and actually did them print. Parchelle, did I lose you? Oh, you're back. Okay,
Okay.
and we're back. There it
There
is.
we go.
Like it never happened. Um,
Yay.
but I do, I think that folks are kind of cowed by the idea of not necessarily writing a book, right? I mean, most of us between social media posts and blog posts and articles we've written generally probably have enough material to actually put a book together relatively easily. And I know I did some of mine by simply recording things like this and then, running them through Otter and getting the transcripts and editing, and getting someone to edit them. I can edit them, but that's not anything I want to be doing anymore, so I don't. Right. But I think that, it used to be that you went into publishing your book and writing your book really concerned with selling the book itself and the book sale. But what I'm realizing now is that at this point, right, if you've got a really good business going, your fortunes aren't hinging on your book sales,
No, no, they're not.
right? Your
Yeah,
fortunes can definitely hinge on how you leverage the book. And it's just as easy to get print copies now of a book as it is to get digital copies of a book. Like even Kindle publishing, KDP will run off very nice soft cover, hardcover, whatever size, whatever you want, with your art on it, and they look fine and they look professional, and basically anybody can do it. I feel like if
totally
I could
true.
figure that out, anyone can figure it out.
It's true.
Like
There
I'm
really
smart
is a
on a lot
lot
of
that goes
things.
into it. Yeah, there
Yes.
is the mention as well. When authors or entrepreneurs venture into writing a book, it is really important, as you've already mentioned, to sort of distinguish and really clarify what your goals are for it, and to recognize that the book alone is not going to be, uh, the one size or the one thing that's going to make the huge difference in terms of revenue and income. It's really what happens as a result of your book. And one of the most beautiful things that your book creates for you is more attention. It's more people in the door to really understand and have an experience with you. But what you do with that attention is critically important and ends up being what makes the difference in terms of what you're able to generate in terms of revenue from that work and what you've put out. And so I love this analogy I learned from Brian Heathman. He's a book publisher with Nate for Success. And he had said if you took every author, every published author, self published author, doesn't matter, you line them up from tallest to shortest, right? And instead of height, we're actually talking about the number of books that they sold. The author that's going to be in the middle of this lineup is going to be probably about 5'6", right? That's the average height. And that author is going to sell 50 copies a year, 50. Whereas the tallest one is, someone who's like a James Patterson, for example, who is going to sell millions upon millions of copies. And his height would be like 17,000 miles tall or something crazy like that in comparison.
Right.
But I share that, not really to discourage anybody from it, but to really understand that the book is just a first stepping stone. It's a big stepping stone, however, into what could be next for you in terms of what you utilize that book for after you've gained that attention. And so, there's a number of ways that authors are leveraging their book from that point. But it's important to understand that from what you said just then, it's not going to be the number of book copies that you sell necessarily that's going to make the difference. There are a number of successful entrepreneurs, consultants, speakers who actually offer their book for free, and it still is able to work for them. So don't get too caught up in um, making the number of book sales to be where your revenue generation stops or the potential of it stops. There's many things beyond that that are possible.
Right. I mean, I still think it's good to do a good book launch, right? I mean, launch your book as if you wanted to sell, hundreds of thousands of copies. And while knowing that you're probably not, and that that's actually okay, that that's not the point. But Parchelle, like you're talking about the book is almost an extraordinarily kind of elevated, concise, condensed version of, say, what people might learn about you if they really kind of combed the entire web and all of the stuff you've ever put out there on a particular topic. And realistically, what you're doing is you're making it easier for your client or potential customer to really understand kind of what you're about, and really to start to know, like, and trust you in a much deeper way, because it's true. Published author means something, right? That it's a meaningful kind of statement in our society. And the fact that anybody is willing to pay to read something that you wrote kind of speaks well about you to other folks.
Absolutely.
I also have seen a lot of, like, sometimes I'll kind of randomly go online. I'll go on Amazon. I'll go on the library. I'll go, into Overdrive. I'll start to look at books by Pilates teachers, and there, actually are a fair number, and some kind of surprised me. Some like are Pilates teachers I know who I didn't even know had books out. Right. And this is kind of, what we're getting to next, right? Is there are ways to continually leverage your book without continually trying to sell people your book, right? So, and I know that for your clients, especially, turning a book into a program has worked very well. And that strikes me as something that would be particularly applicable to Pilates professionals and fitness professionals and yoga teachers and, and the folks who follow me. So how does that work? How does that kind of segue happen?
From book to course, or really just leveraging the book, period. You've mentioned before that your number one job as an author entrepreneur is to spread the word and always be in conversation about what you have to offer, and then doing that and helping people with your content. And so, as you start to transition in terms of seeing what is possible for your book and how you can keep that conversation going, uh, there's so many strategies and different ways that apply. But what I want to say, just to kind of get an overview of that process, a book that's being put, or I should say, transformed into an online course, is really about going a little bit deeper and going towards action. So
Mm,
we are happier as human beings. We are more fulfilled in life when we are making progress, when we are changing, when we are evolving. And to me, that's the big difference between a book and, let's say, a course or program. Because if you're investing more, let's say, in a program, right? I have books that, or some authors work with, their books sell for, let's say, $25 on Amazon. They now have a program starting at $1,000 or $300, $400. The difference in the price really is that you have taken the guts of that book, you've made it actionable, and you've made it such that you're almost, in a way, ensuring that they're going to get that end result or that transformation as a result of them actually getting action with you throughout a program or a course. Typically, courses provide things like a deeper understanding of the material, as well as here's the next step that I want you to take, and I want you to do this next. There's accountability built in. There's community typically built into these programs. Really, all of the components that go into really getting your audience from where they are to where they want to be. And reading a book, for some, gets them there, but not all, right? Someone don't even read the entire book from time to time. But if they're reading that book at any point, they, are, let's say, compelled, excited, or something resonates with them. How awesome would it be right there in a book that there's an author to say, hey, let's take this conversation online. I know that you're reading this book now. I hope you're getting a lot from it. I, encourage you to come and check out a workshop that I'm offering on this exact topic. And you're going to get some actionable steps that you can take with my guidance. That is powerful, and your audience will pay for that. I like to call it a convenient transformation, right? It's a transformation that is made more convenient because instead of them taking the time to figure out everything on their own, which they could, they now have it in a more convenient format, if you will, and with your support and your guides along the way. And so typically, again, to answer your question, it's, what we would look at when we go through this process of transforming what you have in the form of a book into something more deeper is it's all about how to get them in action, how to get them a win every step of the way, especially the first step. That very first module or lesson or whatever that you offer, give them a win and make it compelling for them to want to go to the next lesson and to continue the course.
Right, because then they just want to they want to stay with you. They want to continue working with you. And I also feel like a book also makes it easier for people to refer other folks over to you, because they could be like, if you want to know a little more about her, here's a book. And I have to say that for many years I lived in the Caribbean. We lived in Turks and Caicos, and I spent like 4 years of that time as the fitness and Pilates person at Parrot Key, which is, a private island, A-list, kind of crazy resort. And what was interesting was that several of, like, the guests would actually, it was the level at which guests would do some research on you if you were new. Yeah. It wasn't like just show up and take some random Pilates class with whoever's there. It was like, and who is this? Because they wouldn't have hired her if she wasn't good. And let's see. And I had this, I still have it out. I think it's on Amazon for free. It's just like a very short, 10-page, 20-page ebook on, exercises for back pain. And it's a companion to one of my free YouTube videos. But people downloaded and read the book and did some of the exercises. And then they were telling, I guess, other guests, at dinner or drinks or whatever. And then people were coming to my class going, so I hear you have this great book about lower back pain. And I was like, well, it's more a 20-page pamphlet, but yes, it's there. And you can get it. But it was very interesting to me that even at that, that kind of socioeconomic level, that book still mattered, even though it was like this little tiny thing that I had literally just thrown up on Amazon because I was living in the middle, on a tiny island seriously in the middle of in the middle of the ocean, and just wanted something to be out there so that people could find me and kind of stay connected. And it still did that, and ultimately worked its way. I have to say that one actually worked its way ultimately into my Bye Bye Back Pain program, which expands on it, but that kind of actually has stayed the basis of most of what I've done. So, if folks are listening to this and you're watching the replay of this and you're thinking, that you have to be coming out with some like 400-page opus with, 4-color photos and, and going all crazy, that's really not what people need. It's again, I think about service. Yes.
Yeah,
Still.
100%, 100%. And really giving your audience, giving your people a way to experience you, to get a taste of what it's like to work with you. That's the possibility also in the education that you provide and how you present that. I think about when I haven't been to a mall in, like, what is a mall, right? When I
Mall.
when I would go to the mall in the food court, the usually the Asian cuisine places, the Chinese restaurants would have someone out there with a tray of
The sample.
samples. Yeah, and I promise you that, there were a few times that I thought, oh, I'm just gonna get a sample. I'm not really in the mood for this or whatever. And but I would get one taste and it's like, all right, now I want this. And I think
Right.
that it's a similar experience. How can we give others a creative experience of what it's like to work with us before they work with us? And I think that really is goal when it comes to understanding how can we keep the conversation going. It's the same way of continue to give others a taste of what it's like to work with you, and sharing that in some way. And a book is powerful for it. It really is.
Yeah, it's so funny because, we keep cycling through in the media and in social media, and first I've even on LinkedIn, right? Like last year was video. Right. Last year, LinkedIn was all about video. And we're both on LinkedIn Live right now. So, I mean, we're still kind of in that video space, right? But this year on LinkedIn, it's all about the newsletter.
Yeah.
People are writing again. People are wanting to read again. People want links to articles again. I, over the Christmas break, I read 11 books, paper books from the library.
Wow.
Yes. And not all fluffy fiction, by the way. Some fluffy fiction, some not. But yes, and that's how I used to read. That's how I used to read
Yeah.
before all of the distraction of the devices, came in. And so, you know, what do you have to say to folks who thought that books were kind of over because we had video and all of this other cool stuff?
Yeah. I think that I really feel like they're still going to stand the test of time. I don't think they're going anywhere. They're always going to be a powerful medium in how we communicate our ideas, our thoughts, our expertise, our stories. It's still going to be a part of our society and our world. In fact, the world right now is still operating and running off of the books that were written by people who are dead. So what we're talking about now is really the continuation of our legacy. And what I've appreciated more so recently is just the conversations I have with other entrepreneurs that are like-minded and asking the question of themselves, what do I want to be known for? Not how much revenue am I going to, try to generate, and, how are we going to get this market share? Like, those things are important, but more important than that for us individually when we talk about our journey here on the planet is, what do I want to be known for? What can I do that is going to matter? And to me, that's a bigger it's a much bigger question, but again, lends itself to why it is important that we continue to uh, share our knowledge, share our wisdom in a number of formats. And I think that books are going to continue to be that way in which we get our information, get our ideas, our thoughts, inspiration, all of that.
I know. It's like I was like, how are you questioning books? Who questions books? I was like, I don't understand. Like, people are saying this to me, and I'm literally sitting there like, I'm watching you talk, and I have no understanding of these words because you're questioning books. And as far as I'm concerned, no one should ever question books, the need for books, and the existence of books. Um, I
Yeah.
mean, I'm sorry, I live in a tiny studio apartment, in lower Manhattan, and I have a Kindle, and I do ebooks and all of that. And I spent a year and a half doing that from the NYPL because that's all there was. But the minute the library reopens, because I don't have room to store books, but I have room to house them for short periods of time while I'm reading them. And then bring them back. But whenever people say that, I'm like, why are you questioning the existence and legitimacy of books? Like, who does that?
I don't know. I don't know anyone that does that.
I know. Don't do that. And then I stopped following those people and listening to those people who are like, we don't need books anymore because we've got video and audio. And I'm like, yeah. And when they crap out, we're back to books. I lived in Lower Manhattan during and after Hurricane Sandy. Books. I mean, we were to the
Exactly.
point where, to charge the Kindle, we had to take it down to the front desk or over to the fire station. Yes. It's bad when the fire department is offering free device charging. But we got out of that pretty quickly, and are obviously back and fine. But it was a lot. And that's when, paper came in super, super handy. And I also find that, when I read books by particular authors, and it does make me want to seek out their stuff even more. So um, I I am a huge fan. So Parchelle, talk to me about how people can get in touch with you and talk to me a little bit about the ways to work with you first, right? Because you've got your program. I know people can also come in and work with your agency and work with you kind of one-on-one. What are the different ways that you work with people?
Yeah, absolutely. So, one of my favorite part of what we get to do is actually plan out a course. And so, the first step generally that people can take when it comes to working with us is to join me for a course planning workshop. It's a one-to-one 3-hour session where we dive in really, really deep into all the components of your course and reviewing your book and laying out a full curriculum. The name of the price, where it's going to be, literally the entire plan is set in that time. And once we know that plan, we know what's next, and we can go forward. And so, from that point, either clients either like to work with me in a done with you fashion, where over the course of 90 days, we work together one-on-one to make sure that you have all the components necessary. You know exactly what to focus on at what point in order to get that book published. Some aspects of that process, some people just don't want to do, and I get that. You might be in a position where you have, more money than you do time. And so for that reason, you have aspects of that process that we can actually do for you. And so that gets into more of an a la carte setup to where everything from the filming, right? So if you're at a point in your career, in your business where your brand and how you show up is really important, maybe being Zoom behind your laptop to record the content of your course, it doesn't really match with your brand. And so we offer, for example, as I mentioned, like filming and editing, could be one of those add-ons that some don't want to do, as well as getting all the tech set up. Like there's a whole technical aspect that goes into setting up a course. So everything from your learning management system to a funnel stuff and actually designing how it's going to look as a cohesive program. So any and all those aspects and some more. So again, some just don't want to do, and so for that reason, we have just done for you aspects of the process that we can do again within a 90-day period. So that's what it looks like to work with us, and to reiterate too, because you had mentioned that you have a book that you read and that you loved and appreciated, and you got to the next step and the next step. That actually happened with me this past year, and it's a huge testament to the power of a book. So it started with me getting this book called The Millionaire Master Plan by Roger Hamilton.
Mm-hmm.
Read that book. The book advised me to take a quiz or a test to help me identify my archetype as an entrepreneur. And I took this test, came to realize that I'm a creator, and just that awareness in of itself really empowered me, and it gave me insight into what I'm really good at, and also helped me to release areas of myself that I've not been very good at, and to accept it. So I did that, and then from there, after taking the test, which was like $100 or something like that, took test. Then after that, got invited into a program that was $1,000 that and helped me to get into flow more what it meant to be a creator. I didn't stop there. Now I'm in a $20,000 program for the year that has further empowered me to take even more action, have accountability around what really resonated with me from reading the book, which was all about how, as a creative person, I can be in my flow. And for anyone else, that matter, who has some strengths and abilities and skills and gifts, how you can show up and be in that flow all the time or as much as possible within your business. And so I just share that just to give some context on just the powerful nature of what can come about just from the beginning point of a book. And there are some people who join the program first, and they realize, there's more to this that I would like to get understanding on, and the book is there that can be read as a foundation as well. So I just share that to say that it's just such a powerful journey that you can create for people, all connected to the foundations you've laid out in the book. And so anyone who's interested in more of that, I highly recommend check I host master classes throughout the year, where you can come and learn more of the intricate details of our process and how we take a book from a book to a course, and all the information and more things you can find at theauthor'sleverage.com.
Great. And what is the place for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, LinkedIn is a great place to get connected with me. I'm there at Parchelle. There's not too many of us, so Parchelle on LinkedIn, Parchelle Tashi. That's a great place to get in touch, and then of course also through the website.
Because me, I'm not on Instagram DM to see if I know that, like you mentioned in the story, if I expect I don't check them. And then when I text them, I'm like, oh, I responded to these away. But I find it interesting, people will DM me there, and not, also be messenger me or my website or find some other way of getting in touch with me when that one is clearly not working. Everybody actually put a link to Parchelle's website underneath this video so that you have it. And LinkedIn, and this would be the best to get in touch with her on all social media channels, because we are connected on all of them. My friend, of awesome. Seriously, it's just so great to have a group of professionals who all do different things, and it's awesome. always, always. Well, so much for joining us and today, and really digging deep into the importance of then the self, or a thing, that just sit there. And many of you have a book already and are of how to leverage what to do, how to turn it into a program, how to serve people. This way, I really encourage you to get in touch with Parchelle. That's what she's doing. And she was a high school math teacher. So you know how to teach. Right, right. So everybody, thank you so much for joining us, and have a rest of your Tuesday. We'll see you soon. Right. Going to end.